Going live. Wait a second. Hi, everyone. This is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I'm Dayna. That's Sonja. That's Lisa. Man, what a weekend. Holy cow. It was such a good time. Kansas City showed up and showed out for the NFL draft this year. It was so much fun. And, you know, the draft, as many surprises as we thought we were going to get, we didn't necessarily get that many surprises. It was surprising. We didn't get the surprises. Is that what we can say?
Works.
I don't know. Yeah. Right. Anyway, welcome again to the Our Turf Football Podcast. We are so grateful for you guys hanging out with us tonight. Okay. We were very sad this weekend, though, because our dear darling Sonja could not join us, the rest of us, in Kansas City, because, you know, she's got that damn job. God dang it.
You missed a good time.
We
missed a good time.
I know I did. I missed barbecue. That's what I did.
Whole lot of it too. Whole lot of it.
I'm pretty sure that we put Lisa into a food coma a couple times.
I can believe that.
I can't believe that one time it just crashed.
I know. Yeah, you can thank Joe's KC. You can thank for that. Yeah, so we did teach the finer aspects of Kansas City barbecue to Lisa. We explained as she got to try a couple of different restaurants, and we said, she's like, wait a minute, but this is better at this place.
True.
And this is better at this place. I said, yes, welcome to the barbecue world. So it was good. We had a great time. But we missed you, Sonja. We missed you.
I missed you guys too. I really did.
Did you get a chance to watch much of the draft?
No, not really. I think I watched some of it mostly like on Saturday. Greg and I were watching it on Saturday, just kind of like the later rounds and stuff. So that wasn't so bad. It was just kind of interesting and just watching and listening, more so listening because, you know, kids aren't there or anything like that. So it was just more listening and seeing who went where and all that good stuff. So yeah, that was probably about as good of draft coverage as I got.
Yeah.
Live
Draft coverage. Yeah. Hey, Lisa, I want to show you this comment from Camden. Lisa's tan gets the best draft. I know. You should see her in person, Camden. She's so damn tan. It's like she's on a farm or something and is outside all the time.
Figure that.
It's crazy. Well, we had a wonderful time this weekend. As most of you guys know, if you watched our other podcast, that Lisa and Kay were lucky enough to come to the draft. That's not what I meant. I was lucky enough that they could come to Kansas City and hang out with us during the draft. They got to be out in the crowd on that crazy Thursday night where it was so packed and so fun. I was definitely lucky enough to be back in the press room and be in during the press conferences, which turned out to be some of the those boys were giving us quote after quote, man. We were having such a good time with them. It was a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And, you know, Lisa, you were out in that crowd. And you just kept saying, it's a sea of red. It's a sea of red. There were
It was.
Yeah. But it was fun to be out there, right? Quite an experience.
Well, yeah. And I think when, you know, you sit back and you look at it, and why not celebrate their Super Bowl win? And that's what they all were doing. I mean, seriously, they were out there. I saw with the Panthers having the first pick, I saw maybe where we were staged at 3 Panther jerseys. And I mean, it was just red. All I remember is just seeing red everywhere, and they were having a great time. I mean, they were celebrating. They were celebrating. I don't think they were celebrating the draft. I have to be honest with you. They were celebrating the Kansas City Chiefs and that draft being in Kansas City.
Right. It's true. And I just want everyone to know, if you haven't seen the video yet, Travis Kelce did not throw the actual Lombardi trophy. It was a replica made out of tin because everyone had a meltdown that he threw that. He did not. Now, did he shotgun a beer off of it? Yes, that's what Travis Kelce does because, you know, that's who Travis Kelce is. But
and then came out into the crowd and shotgunned a couple more.
They were enjoying themselves a lot. That is for sure. Yes, it was a lot of fun. And you know how coincidental that they just happened to have the draft right after they, you know, won a Super Bowl. And I'm sure that if that had happened in another city, it would have been the exact same way. We had a podcast the other day, the three of us together. It was at my kitchen table, if you guys could tell. But
it was awesome, though.
Yeah, and we really kind of broke down the first round of the draft, and the wins and losses went through every single player. And there was a lot of hype around this draft of the unpredictability of it, that no one knew what was going to happen. Even the teams in their press conferences after the first round were like, we didn't know what was going to happen after the first pick. But then you go and you watch it, and it ended up actually being a pretty logical draft, right? Like they took, 3 quarterbacks in quick succession there, and the best defensive player came off the board. It seemed to make a lot of sense. It really didn't get too funky until the later rounds, when you start to see teams picking out their favorites. And I think that that's where we saw kind of the change. But really, I mean, I definitely was not surprised by any of the top 10. I will say this. I was a little surprised at Seattle taking a Witherspoon over Carter, but then I realized that was really just my personal preference. It made total sense for the team. I was a little sad, not gonna lie, but I'm thrilled with Witherspoon now, especially that I've watched more tape on him. But otherwise, I mean, Sonja, did any of even like the top 10, top 15, I don't think there was any real surprises in there.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I was surprised that the Lions traded back.
It's because we stole Witherspoon from you.
That too. I would say I was not expecting them to go running back at all. I thought that for sure that they were going to get Jalen Carter because he was right there. So that was probably my biggest surprise. But I guess after this draft, I really learned that Brad Holmes is trading. He is a trade man. Like, he is just going to trade. So that's just going to be our thing. He doesn't look at mock drafts, which is good for him, but he's just going to trade. And so I was really kind of surprised that he traded that pick, but he got some 2 decent guys, the running back and the edge rusher. So I'm glad, but that was my biggest surprise.
Lisa, what about you? When you look at that first round, now that you kind of can look back on it a little bit, were there any real surprises to you?
I think the two that get me is the 2 teams that seemingly in the history of the past couple years have always traded kind of back, and that's the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots. I'm really kind of surprised they stayed put with the way the draft fell and rumored players that the teams liked. I think that just kind of shows the depth of this draft and how much the talent that was available in that. Because when you look at Seattle and what Seattle did, I mean, they placed everything that Russell Wilson trade brought them on the table. They didn't trade any of those picks. They closed that trade out with picking every single one of those picks they had. I was very surprised by that. And Belichick not trading back, just stockpiling. They held in. They did a couple, like you said, the latter part of, but it always seemed like all we saw was Detroit. So I was surprised about that. I was surprised that the Seahawks and the Patriots kind of stayed put. I really expected them, like almost every year, to just stockpile picks, and they didn't.
Right. That's very true. And I knew that about Seattle, and the joke running on Twitter was, oh my God, they're actually picking. So the rest of the being world agrees with you. Belichick was interesting. And not only was it interesting to me with the Patriots, but it was a little surprising to a certain extent that they went with the cornerback from Oregon, Christian Gonzalez. I don't know why I think of Belichick as the offensive guy and that he's going to go after these offensive, players, especially with some of the guys that were sitting there. Some of these wide receivers, Zay Flowers are still there, JSN was still there, but he didn't. And I found that really interesting. And so I don't, I too expected them to trade back. I expected a couple others to trade back too, but for them to go for Gonzalez, who is a great player. So that's good. But, so I'm looking through the rest of it. We have to talk just really quickly about this first round, even though we did go through it pretty thoroughly the other day. There were 2 that were a little confusing that I know that confused Kate. And so I'm going to throw those in because she brought them up. First one was Dalton Kincaid going 25 to the Buffalo Bills, the tight end, especially after they have Knox, they extended their other guy. It really didn't seem like a place of need to go after in the first round. And I thought that was very interesting. The other one was a feel-good pick, and that was the Kansas City Chief taking Felix, the defensive end out of Kansas State. Now, let me tell you why this is a feel-good pick. Yes, they needed someone to replace Frank Clark. Yes, absolutely
Right.
they did. But here's what's neat about that kid is he's a hometown boy. And I don't just mean because he went to Kansas State. He literally is from Kansas City. He graduated from high school in Lee Summit High School, which is a suburb here in Kansas City, went to K-State, and then is now staying here. The town exploded for that. And I think that it was kind of the perfect capper for them celebrating their Super Bowl, as Lisa mentioned, and then being able to take this pick, which was truly, he's a great player and a position of need for them. But then to be able to add the home, the home, home guy, feel to it is very, very cool too. All right. So let's talk about some of these draft grades. I'm going to preface this with the fact that I think draft grades are the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard myself. And I hate it. And the reason why I hate it is because I don't think you should get grade a draft until 2 years after they've been picked. You need to see how these kids develop. You need to see, the players out there, the Tom Brady's out there getting picked in the 6th round, and then what happens and what they do. But just the same, they give them the grades. So I have a different take on it, but I'm going to wait to give those to you because I want to talk to you, Sonja, first. Just looking, and you don't have to give the grades. I don't care, whatever. Who do you think really the top couple of teams that really seem to nail this draft?
I think the Eagles kind of really hit the ball out of the park with that one. They got some very good players, and I think that they improved both offensively and defensively. I did see a tweet or something. It was a meme, and it was just like, so the Eagles now have Alabama's championship defense or offense and Georgia's championship defense. Yes, what are we supposed to do? And they do. I mean, and they made the move for DeAndre Swift, who, won't be, I don't think, another Miles Sanders, but hopefully will be able to kind of, revive his career and, do some work over there. So I think they probably had the best draft.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus among a lot of players. There seems to be a couple of teams that really are fighting for the kind of top spot. You hear a lot about the Eagles. And the thing of it is with the Eagles, I want to talk about Jalen Carter for just a minute, is that they took him in the 1st round at number 9, and they were shocked that he fell to them. I find that really surprising because once he got past Seattle, which I did not think he would do, I thought for sure the Lions would snap him right up. And then that didn't happen. And then you turn around and then the next team didn't take him. And then the next team. And there were a couple teams in there that didn't necessarily need him. But, he got past the Raiders. He got past the Falcons, who took, Bijan Robinson, which I have nothing against running backs. I think they're great. But really? At number 8? I'm just surprised. Again, no disrespect. And there Jalen Carter is to go to probably one of the best situations possible for him, Lisa, don't you think?
Yeah, they just found that. Just when at the end of the night, I think everybody the first thing all the commentators said, they just sit back and they're like, wow, the Eagles got Carter and Smith. And it's like all of a sudden it starts sinking in. It's like, how did that happen? They traded with the Bears to get up to take him. It's Carter, and then man, Smith and it happens that way. And that's what happens. And we don't get the good behinds till like a couple weeks out now of exactly what these GMs were thinking. I mean, we started kind of getting a little sprinkle, especially with the Bills leapfrogging the Cowboys, because the Cowboys were going to take Dalton Kincaid. They said Jerry Jones was banging the fist. He was mad because he wanted him. It was but that's
I love it when Jerry Jones is mad.
Well, that's what happens when you put it out there that you want the guy, and that's what you say. It's gonna be soup. The Bills. If the Bills didn't know, they probably would have just said, "Okay, I think we got him here." But apparently, you start hearing all the little stories now about and that's why we traded out. Well, this was our guy. We traded out. But you love the backstories on that, and I think I don't think he meant to slide. I just think other teams had different ideas. Just like with the Bills. The Bills have something in mind with Dalton Kincaid. They want to run that special 12 they have that they're doing that. GM talked about it. That was the guy they targeted. That's the guy they covered. That's the guy they knew they had to leapfrog because Cowboys were rumored to take him.
They wanted him. So, I don't think it was a secret, right? Like we all
know. And the Falcons, the same thing. They obviously have something in mind. This is the guy that they need to run this offense, and obviously they're going to put in. And Smith just quietly just fell in their laps.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so we have a good comment from Divine Comedy. It says this is like the 2020 Cardinals draft. Simmons, Jones, all big names from big programs, and as of today, 0 will be with Arizona in 2024.
Exactly.
I think that's a really good point because God knows Arizona's a mess, but they also are considered to have a fantastic draft for what they need. Now, I will say this about Arizona. I was a little surprised when they traded back and then turned around and traded back up again. I thought that was sort of like, you got all that haul, but that's okay. You know, whatever they needed to do. And so we'll talk about them in just a minute. So the Steelers are also considered to have one of the better, drafts out there. They've had lots of people been talking about them quite a bit. Lisa, what did you think of the Steelers draft overall? I mean, they went and they were in the first round, they went at 14 and then they just kind of stuck with it. 2 picks in the second round and then a third, a fourth, and 2 sevenths. So not a ton of picks, but man, they really
they went after need. You know, they needed to protect Kenny Pickett. They needed help for Patrick Peterson in the back in the backfield. When you look at it all across the board grade, you have to give them an A. When you look at needs, that boom, 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 they stuck with it. They stuck with it, and best man available, they went with it. I love bringing pedigree home. I do. You look at the Watt brothers, you look at the Boza brothers, all these guys that their daddies and everything played in the league. That's just pedigree, and it was just a no-brainer on that second round, that first day. Right. Everybody, I was so happy that they took him. So I think this kid is I loved Porter, and I talked about that in some of when I was on before. I wouldn't let him slide because I said I believe in pedigree and so, but hometown boy, the Steelers knocked it out of the park for me. Yeah. They had one of the best drafts, I think, of the 2023. Now,
I'm not gonna lie, I was real pissed he wasn't there day 2. I was real pissed that a lot of them weren't there day 2. There should have been like 5 or 6 more interviews that we got, and Brian Branch was the only one that stuck around, and God love him for it. But Joey Porter was the first pick in the second round. It's like, come on, why didn't you just wait?
We talked about that. I don't understand. I can understand Will. That was kind of a little slap in the face.
Talk about Will,
but the other guys, I mean, stay. I mean, this is. I don't know. It's just an experience. I think that they all should have, experienced, and them all leaving. I don't. Like I said, we don't know the backstory. Was it as support to Will that they were upset? I know that there was a lot of talk, and like you said, we'll talk about that here in a little bit with Will.
Oh yeah.
On what exactly happened.
So in our comments, it said, let's see. My comedy here said, Colts knocked it out of the park though, and they aren't getting enough love. I disagree with that. I don't disagree that they didn't knock it out of the park because they did, but I think they're getting a lot of love for it. They are getting ranked like second, third, definitely in the top 5 for every single one of the people who were in the grades. I like the way The Athletic did it a little bit better, where they just ranked it. They didn't give them a grade because, you don't know how they're going to come, it's all going to pan out. But here's the thing. I got to count all these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 picks in this draft for the Indianapolis Colts. And they start out with Anthony Richardson, who apparently knew all along that he was going to get picked. They had talked to him about it the week before. It was like no big deal. But I loved the Julius Brent pick at 44 in the second round out of Kansas State, the cornerback out of Kansas State. Fantastic. So many. Then they picked up Adi, which really irritated the piss out of me in the 4th round. I really wanted him in Seattle as a defensive tackle out of Northwestern. This looks like, I hate to say franchise saving, but the Colts have really been flailing the last couple of years. But Sonja, I feel like this Colts draft is like going to save them as long as Richardson pans out.
I think it'll save them as long as Richardson pans out. I think that, they're kind of getting everything together for their new coach, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me, but I think it's just
it's not Frank Wright
together in his image. No, it's not Frank Wright.
I don't know. I gotta tell. Did I tell that story on Wednesday? It was crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyways, but I think that won't be like a saving, but I definitely think that it's going to get them back on track in the AFC South to become one of the division contenders that we always thought that they could be.
That division greatly improved themselves in this draft. Greatly in the whole division.
They did.
Yeah. I was fascinated by this. All right. So speaking of coming in third, the Houston Texans, I will tell you that the Houston Texans, I felt their new coach in this draft. I really felt like you could really feel like a surge of energy, a different, feel to it. I was really impressed with that. Obviously, they got CJ Stroud. Man, that kid, he was great in his interview. And I will tell you that he took that he's not so smart bullshit to heart, man. He was real pissed about that. And he should be, because it was completely uncalled for. But Will Anderson Jr., oh, so good. Then Juice Scruggs, Tank Dell. I mean, Henry To'oTo'o at the linebacker out of Alabama, fantastic. I think that that's going to be great for the Texans. I still think they're a couple years away, but they're going to be hugely improved there for sure. And then fourth on this athletic list is the Seattle Seahawks. And we can talk about the Seahawks quite a bit, but I know not everyone wants to do that. But so the Seahawks obviously went Devin Witherspoon, got JSN, Derek Hall, who's supposedly a fantastic leader. I mean, you only speak super highly of him. The interesting one that seems to be getting a lot of praise is Anthony Bradford, the guard out of LSU that Seattle picked up in the fourth round for 108. Many thought he would go in the second round, and he was still sitting there. So that seems to be huge for the Seattle Seahawks, who are also being graded very high. Now let's talk about some teams that maybe didn't draft so well. And we say that, now keep in mind, we don't know yet. We have to see how they turn out. But you start at the bottom. The Rams had a long way to go, and Lisa, they didn't get any closer with this draft.
But at least they got some protection.
They got a lot. I just don't know about they got a lot of players. Let's talk about that to begin with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players. They got 14, if I'm counting correctly. And out of nowhere in the fourth round, they pick up Stetson Bennett. Explain to me, Lisa, why they picked up Stetson Bennett.
I can't explain it, because the kid should have got undrafted. Honestly, I mean, it was like consensus through the whole NFL. And for God's sakes, a punter. Oh, come on.
No, that was San Francisco. Or did they give a punter too?
A punter too.
Oh yeah, but not till the seventh round at least. Not like San Francisco.
I mean, those are players that aren't going to get drafted. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's a winner. I mean, you look at like Lawrence in college. You look at his win percentage. You look at stuff like that. I mean, you never know. Mm-hmm. The kid's a winner. The kid's been a winner wherever he goes. Yeah. So, could be a great training camp battle. Could just, for practice squad but I don't know. I mean, the consensus was he was going to be undrafted. He was going to hook up somewhere, but I don't think he expected to get drafted, but good for him.
A lot of people are talking also about the New York Jets. And the biggest thing is not that they didn't draft well. They didn't have a ton of draft picks. It was an odd first round pick. So Will McDonald, the edge rusher out of Iowa State, the conversation seems to be, they're not sure he'll be able to live up to that first round pick. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, he was good, but was he a second rounder? That's the question. So I don't know. That one was real interesting for me too. And then the last couple, very sorry, Lisa. Talk to me about what happened in Miami.
Well, we just didn't have the draft capital. I think that's what happens. Yeah. So when you look at the Dolphins picks, it was like we were limited. So I think when you look at hipster homebrewers' track record,
so proud.
Speed kills. And that's what we did. I mean, when you look at and I think it was Robert RG3 who, if Miami was in the Olympics, we'd have the 4 by 100 relay. Mm-hmm. We'd have the gold medal. So, but as far as value and stuff like that, I just think it's something that this is a Mike McDaniel system. And that's what it was, the best player available and what they wanted to do with the shortcomings that we had. Yeah. So.
It's true. Sonja, guess who had, according to The Athletic, the worst draft?
Not the Lions.
See the smile on my face? No, not at all. They did great.
49ers.
It was the San Francisco 49ers. Sorry. Can't
No,
even
it's
hide my joy in that one. And why is that, Lisa? Because with their second pick in the draft, they took a kicker out of Michigan.
I'm not
Look, now, Jake
right
Moody,
there.
he money.
They deserve everything they get. Well,
Jacob
what
Moody
does that?
is money.
Yeah, he don't need third round money. I'm just
Hey,
but
that's-
I want to
Now,
remind
can I
everyone-
ask you a question? Were you seriously worried about somebody else picking up Mooney?
No, not at all.
Then what are you doing?
Hey, he's
She
good
didn't do
though.
it. It wasn't
He
her
could be the
fault.
next Justin Tucker. You heard it here first, folks. He could be the next Justin
He
Tucker.
could be. But do you take Justin Tucker in the third?
No.
We only have so many picks. Here's
No.
the thing. Let's all reflect on last season and what happened in San Francisco with their kicker. They went to kick it. Remember, it was so far off it went down the tunnel.
Yeah.
So they needed a kicker desperately. Let's be quite honest with you. I like to.
Oh hell! Wait till third. You should take him in the second. Then.
I know. Should have taken. Well, they didn't have a second round. They started.
No,
in
they
the
probably would take
Right.
him.
Probably would.
So a couple of the other players were considered pretty good. They did get Jair Brown, safety out of Penn State, who was a pretty good safety. That was their first pick in the draft, so that was very good. But it's funny to me that the division. I love this division so much, and it's so funny. So Camden said that I was East Coast embarrassed into not talking about the Seahawks. That's not true. I just know that there are other teams we need to talk about on here. I could talk about Seattle. I do a show every single week just about Seattle. So we can do that. We'll talk about that later. But this is really interesting. I liked this draft. But let's talk about the quarterbacks because there was a lot of hullabaloo about Will Levis dropping. The week before the draft, and Lisa said this perfectly, he was hyped up to be, God, even maybe go before Bryce Young, maybe go before CJ Stroud, definitely going before Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fascinating to me to watch him start to fall because in Emory Hunt's draft Bible, which I always swear by, I think he was like the 14th ranked quarterback. Emory just didn't think he had the stuff. Lisa, talk to me a little bit about Will Levis, where he landed in Tennessee, and supposedly he's their third stringer.
Well, and the thing is, there's rumors in Tennessee that they're just not happy where Malik Willis is. So when you look at that situation, you almost have to jump on that train because obviously something's going on there a little bit. Because certainly there wasn't a need for him there. They already know Tannehill's going, Malik's going to be back up. So there's just some rumblings there. Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is when you're taken ahead of a quarterback that's only had 13 starts under his belt, what I've done is talking to a lot of my sources, and a lot of quarterback knowledge analysts, was his tape, his film's not very good. There's a lot of questions as reading defenses. I think when you look at his size, the skill set, that's there. There's just a lot of other fundamental things that they saw on tape that they just weren't very impressed with the kid. So how to have him hyped up so much to where it's hard for me to fathom that a team did not express such interest to his agent that his agent would have put him on that stage like that. So somebody had miscrossed signals somewhere or something like that, or they just weren't talking. And maybe they were just like, look, just like a Mitchell Trubisky type of thing. Fly under the radar. Let's get you there. I do know for a fact that he was very unhappy with the camera angles that were constantly.
They were
on him.
very focused on him. Yeah.
So, and I think that drove a lot of why he went home, and I think it might have drove why the others went home. I think that whole debacle back there where, we never saw Joey Porter. We never saw Branch. We never saw any other guys sitting in the green room. They kept going back to him and putting the emphasis on him dropping, sort of like they did with Aaron Rodgers that day.
Right. But Lisa, he's a quarterback. They have to be ready for that kind of scrutiny. I mean, if people love good quarterbacks so much, he has to be prepared for that. And that's who people are, looking for. There had been comments that maybe Branch would make it till the second day. And there was, a few others.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that he would have won a lot of people over had he stayed. But that's just me and my little reporter heart who wanted to ask him some questions.
I think he just wanted to make a statement that he just wasn't happy that, I think it
I
kind of
agree with
backfired
him,
on him a little bit because I think he was trying to support those other guys in the room, saying,
Oh,
look,
that's-
I'm
that's fair.
surrounded with these guys and they deserve to get some recognition too. I don't think he was worried about where he was going to get dropped or something like that. I don't think he was worried about that. I think he was pissed off because he wanted to, you had other guys in the room and here you are just focused on me, which I think he was like, no, I need to remove myself. Let these guys take the spotlight because it's just all, so that's kind of how I partake a lot of it. And watching his interviews, he didn't seem like he was deterred about where he went or dropping. He just seemed more perturbed that the other guys weren't getting the recognition that he thought they deserved.
It's fair. I think that's fair. That I hadn't even thought of it that way. Yeah, for sure. Sonja, what do you think about where these quarterbacks landed? So you have Young with the Panthers, who, okay. And it's nothing against Bryce Young, but in my head, he fits so much better in Houston, and CJ Stroud needed to go to the Panthers, but okay, whatever. That's just my head. And so these quarterbacks, they landed the Young with the Panthers, and CJ Stroud with Houston. And then Anthony Richardson with the Colts. Levis ended up with the Titans. Hooker. And where did he end up? I can't remember where did Hooker end up.
Tennessee.
No,
Detroit.
That's right.
Yeah,
oh my God.
don't you remember that tweet?
I know. So what do you think about where these quarterbacks
Your Hooker
landed?
shirt.
Yes, my Hooker jersey.
So for those of you guys who don't know, Sonja's husband tweeted right after he was picked. That's right. I forgot about this. About now he could finally buy his wife a Hooker jersey. I loved it. It cracked me up so hard. It was so funny. So funny.
Yeah, that was very funny. Don't come after him. He's just
it was very funny.
Hilarious.
Very funny. Yes.
But I was kind of surprised that we took Hooker. But I think that'll be somebody that'll be good to kind of groom behind Goff. Goff's not going to be there forever, so I think that was actually a pretty good move by them.
Right.
Then let's see, CJ Stroud in Houston. I kind of did think that actually CJ and Anthony Richardson should switch. But,
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but it's okay because I thought that Anthony might be a little bit more of a build-up kind of guy. But I think CJ Stroud is going to do great in Houston. I think they're kind of building the team, and I think it'll be good. Look at me talking nicely about an Ohio State quarterback, but
I don't even know who you are,
right? But I think he'll be okay. Hopefully he won't be I think jury's still out on Justin Fields, but I think CJ Stroud definitely will be able to do what he needs to do there. And then Bryce Young, he's gonna have with the Panthers. He's gonna have a good time, and I think Frank Wright is going to really kind of help get him to that next level. They got a lot of guys for him to throw to and work with, so I think that'll be good. And Anthony Richardson, great move for the Colts. I like all these moves actually.
Yeah,
it was a surprise, but again, I think that it'll be good. I think that their new coach, the offensive coordinator from the Eagles, was going to be able to work with him and kind of, develop him and get him where he needs to be too.
Yeah.
Niles
agrees with you completely. God,
yeah, I think Niles is like,
I know.
He's
like, no, Hooker should not have. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. All right. So Camden put in comments. I had asked in there what your favorite pick of the draft was, and Oluwatimi should be Seahawks starter and probably contend for rookie honors. The hype around this kid and how good he is going to be great. He's a center. God knows Seattle has never really valued the center position, and they seem to have really jumped for him, and that's fantastic. Washington to the Steelers is going to be awesome. She put that in there too. So you guys look at your favorite pick in the draft. Not just for your team, but then for your team also. So Lisa, I'm going to start with you.
Joey Porter Jr. I'm gonna stick right to
Steelers?
it. Yeah, I'm gonna stick right to it. I just for some, I love that pick, and it just fit so perfectly, and the way it fell, I really, really enjoyed in watching that. For us, it's got to be the running back, because when the Dolphins took him off the board and he runs a 4.0, I was just ecstatic.
I'm in. Thank you. I'm in.
I'm going. I mean, it's like speed kills. Let's see what can go.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking at the 49ers and what they did a couple years ago with their speedy offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that we're just basically following that blueprint right along. So,
yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like all four of our picks. They all kind of made sense
Yeah.
to where we were and stuff like that. But yeah, that Porter Jr. pick was my favorite.
This is a good one. And that's Devin Kane, the running back out of Texas A&M, is who she is talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. Sonia, what about you?
I just assume people know.
I know. Right?
Overall, who was my favorite pick?
Yeah, and then who's your favorite for your Lions?
Favorite pick is Jake Moody going to the Niners.
Oh my God.
It was. I was like, yeah, I loved him. I loved him in college. He was great. So yeah, that's a good one. That was my favorite one. And I
never talking to you again.
I know. That's why I love it, because it annoys you.
That is so ridiculous.
And then my favorite Lions pick was probably the tight end Sam Laporta coming out of Iowa.
Oh,
again,
so good.
We got another one from Iowa, tight end.
Big Iowa boys.
We talked about that. So I think that'll be a really good replacement for Hawkinson. And I think kind of, give Jared Goff another guy to throw to. And I like that pick a lot. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I think that's a good one too. I like that one a lot too. My overall favorite pick, the one that I think that I really like the Anthony Richardson pick. And honest to God, my opinion of him completely changed after my first interview with him during a Play 60 event the day before the draft. He, the depth that he was having these conversations with the kids, with the reporters, whatever. He's so mature and so fantastic, because I wasn't sure where to put him, because they're like, oh, he's super athletic. And in his interview, his post-draft interview, he said, I'm ready for people to stop seeing me as just very athletic and start seeing me as a quarterback. And I loved that. He's ready for this next step. And so I'm excited for the Colts. And he gave such respect to Peyton Manning and to Andrew Luck. And so I think that's great. I think that's going to be a good fit. It might take him a year or two, but that's okay. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was a good fit. For Seattle, it's a lot harder for me, because I really wanted Jalen Carter. I'm still mourning that. I'm still mourning that just a little bit. But I do love the Olu pick, the Oluwatimi center out of Michigan. Lisa or Sonia, you should probably love that time.
Yes.
I will tell you, Mike Morris, though, out of Michigan, the edge rusher out of Michigan, got to my heart, man. He cried for 2 minutes on the phone. So good. I think, honestly, overall, my favorite pick for Seattle is going to end up being Witherspoon. And the only reason why I say that is because the secondary is where Pete Carroll thrives.
Right.
And when he can get good guys on the line to slow down the run, but when that's great. But when he gets that secondary just rolling, that is Pete Carroll football. And I love that. So I think that he's going to be a huge addition. The secondary is going to be set. I had completely forgot that Seattle picked up Julian Love. Like, I got in the draft so much. So that secondary is going to be so good. And I love that. You guys know how I feel about defense. So I love it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for Seahawks fans this year. So I'm really excited about that pick. Not that I don't like JSN, the wide receiver. I'm sure he's fine.
Oh, he's good.
I know. So it'll be good. All right. So ladies, that means draft season's over, right? Next up, we got rookie camp. We got a whole lot of nothing for a couple of months. And then finally we'll start training camp. So it's going to be fun. I think that we are now past what I call the chaos off season, which is really the Super Bowl, then free agency, and then the draft. Now we're going to get kind of into the meat of it and see how these players, although I already saw draft rankings for 2024 and I lost my mind. I'm like, give me a minute, please. So it's crazy. All right, everyone. So that is our show for this week. We thank you so much for joining us. We will be back again next Tuesday right here on YouTube and on Twitter. So we hope that you join us. Thanks, everybody.